Welcome to the Functional Medicine Foundation's podcast, where we explore root cause medicine, engage in conversation with functional and integrative medicine experts, and build community with like-minded health seekers. I'm your host, Amber Warren. Let's dig deeper. All right, everybody, welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm here with Cathy Cooke, who is, we'll get into it, but such a valuable asset to our community. We're so thankful to have her here with us. So Cathy Cooke has been working as an integrative health coach since 2014. She is board certified in holistic nutrition by the National Association of Nutrition Professionals. Recognizing that many of her clients were doing everything right, yet still suffering from health issues, she realized that many home and work environments were contributing to illness. Seeing dramatic improvements in her own health after limiting radio frequency exposure from Wi-Fi and cell phones, she received training and certification from the Building Biology Institute, affording her the expertise to evaluate all areas in a person's life that may be contributing to illness. She holds certifications as a building biology environmental consultant, electromagnetic radiation specialist, and certified residential mold inspector. Originally from Kansas City, Missouri, Cathy now lives in Boise, Idaho. She is available for consulting via Skype and phone and is also willing to travel as needed for home assessments. Welcome to our podcast, Cathy. We're so glad to have you here.
Yeah.
So I finally feel like, and maybe you will agree to disagree on this one, but I finally feel like mold is starting to get some of the attention that it's been deserving. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
For sure.
In some circles, for sure.
Still has a long way to go.
Yeah.
But way more accepted as a potential problem to cause illness than it was even 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah. Good. I'm good. Because I finally am like, okay, we're getting somewhere with this. It's not, we're not total weirdos by talking about mycotoxin illness and mold as a driver of chronic disease anymore.
In this circle.
That's true.
Still got a little bit
That's
bigger.
True. We need to widen our circle.
Yeah.
That's true. So why do you think that we're seeing mold as a driver behind environmental illness more than before?
There's a lot of reasons, both from a body perspective and from a building perspective.
Right.
So one is our building practices kind of suck. You know, we're very concerned about energy efficiency as, you know, great, but we wrap our buildings really tight and we don't allow a lot of ventilation. And so when we wrap everything very tight, we can trap moisture and we get humidity and we can get mold growing in the wall cavities, and it's very difficult to find there. And then we're using things like spray foam, which is very popular right now in the building world, and that can also trap moisture. So our building practices are not great. And then from the body side, well, what other toxins are we dealing with?
Right.
You know, everything.
Yeah.
The air, building materials, off-gassing, our food. So our buckets are this full, and it's like add a mold spore on top of that, boom. Yeah. And, you know, you've got too much for the liver to be able to process, too much for the immune system. And there's also some other thoughts here. So Dr. Shoemaker, who I'm sure, you know, your audience is familiar with, he talks about how back in the 70s, we started to add antifungals into paint. And then we build our houses, or we paint our houses with this antifungal paint. And what is, you know, antibiotic resistant bacteria, right? We've got this resistant fungus, resistant molds that are kind of morphing around the antifungals to be more virulent.
Right.
So we've got potentially more toxic molds, higher chances of it happening in our homes, and our bodies are overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So.
And we're all super stressed, and you can't detox when you're stressed out, right?
1,000,000%.
Like it's.
Yeah.
I know. I'm starting to include stress as when I have that toxic discussion. It's like stress actually needs to probably start.
Well,
that
and then I mean, to take that another step further, a mold exposure is very traumatic.
Yes, it is.
You know, and I always say, it's the only thing that affects your body very dramatically, but everything you own.
So true.
And so now you've got relationship problems and financial problems and health problems, and it's a huge trauma. And if your body stays in that fight or flight, boy. You
don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm honestly almost hearing it daily now where I have the response of, do you think you've been exposed to mold in your history? Or do you think there could be mold in your current home? No, always lived in new homes, or our current home is brand new. And that is such a false sense of security for people to be living in a new build. And I think you just explained it really well. It's just the way that they're building it. And is there something to be said for, I hear this a lot too, like they're just, especially we can talk in the Treasure Valley, right? Just the explosive growth that we've had here in the Treasure Valley. They're just the quality of homes that they're building. Is that true? Or maybe the piping issue, water leaks are more likely to happen?
I mean, the building materials. So if you take a nice, solid piece of wood and pour water on it, it's going to, you wipe it off and fine, and nothing happens. You take a piece of particle board, crappy,
poor quality,
and you pour water on it, and it absorbs it and it holds it, and you're going to have mold growth there way quicker than you will a solid piece of building material. So, yes, that is absolutely a factor.
Yeah. So when we've got, there are a lot of individuals in this community that do mold inspection, right? Because I hear it all the time. Well, I had our home tested and it was fine. They did an air test and it was fine. We had an inspection before we moved in. I've experienced that. We had an inspection that was clean and it wasn't. So why is that a big deal? Let's talk about that. Well, let's just start there.
Okay. So, most mold inspectors are trained to come in and look for a few signs of water damage and take air samples. That's how the training goes. Depending on where you get trained. But taking an air sample in the middle of the room gets about, 5 cubic meters. It's a very small amount.
Right.
So if the mold's over there and I have my air sample here and I run it for 5 minutes, it's not going to capture what's over there.
Okay.
So it's just not very efficient.
Okay.
And we all have different opinions about how important it is to find all the mold, the tiny, I will find like the tiniest little spots. And I want to tell my homeowners this, like, there's this spot here. It seems over the top, but for a sensitive person, that little bit, if it's Stachybotrys or Cotyledonium, one of the black molds, then it's enough.
Yeah.
So it's just a different perspective and a different approach to being holistic about it. Mm-hmm. So when I do an inspection, maybe it's going to take me 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. Right. Whereas if you just come in and do an air sample because you think that that's representative of everything that's happening in the air, which many inspectors do, they're there for maybe a half an hour.
Right.
So it's different opinions about the efficacy of the approach and the sampling. I have seen way too many times, just like you alluded to, where air samples are clean, but there's a problem in the house. So I don't rely on that, and I think you need a much more in-depth visual inspection.
Yeah, which is why you've become one of our very few trusted inspectors in the Treasure Valley, because there are a lot of people. So when we hear people say mold's not a big deal because it's out, we know there's mold outside, we know there's mold in plants, we know there's mold that exists in foods, right? There's high mold foods. Yeah. So what would your response be to someone that says, but mold's everywhere, so it's not a big deal if there's a little bit in my home?
Oh, and that's what I hear from people all the time.
I'm sure.
Doctors, contractors, builders, remediators. Yeah. And I'm like, well, why do you do this job if you don't think it's a big deal? So it is everywhere, but it behaves differently. Mm-hmm. Outside we've got sun, wind, bacteria. It's an ecosystem, and everything is kept in balance and in check. Inside your home, though, we can create conditions to create this out of balance, it's not in its ecosystem where there's checks and balances. It can grow differently and behave differently. So, for example, we have drywall, which is faced with paper, which is a pre-digested food for mold. Mm-hmm. So if that gets wet and there's no bacteria to keep it in check, no sun, no wind, I can grow huge amount of, say, Stachybotrys on this wall, and then it can release its mycotoxins inside a confined environment. So you've got a densely concentrated source of mycotoxins, and it's not the mold necessarily that makes you sick, it's the toxins that ride on it.
Which are the mycotoxins?
Which are the mycotoxins. And then you've got an unnatural environment for this toxic mold in a confined space, and it's too much for our bodies to handle.
Yeah.
So it is everywhere, but it's not everywhere like that.
Right. That's a really good way to put it. So some of these remediators or even some homeowners, and I've had patients tell me, oh yeah, we have black mold in our shower. My husband just bleaches it and it's fine. What's the problem there? It's you cringe.
Never, ever put bleach on mold.
Yeah.
So bleach, what it does to mold is it bleaches it. It takes away the color, the pigment. But it can still be there. And in fact, the main component of bleach is water. So you can feed it and you can make it worse. I will state that if it's a superficial, mold on a fiberglass shower, you can clean that. You can clean it with soap and water or hydrogen peroxide or whatever. Fine. But if it's on wood or a porous material, you never want to use bleach. You can't clean it because mold has roots. It has, it grows into the surface. So if you tried to clean it, you're not getting the roots. You have to remove it. You just have to physically remove it. Otherwise, it's still there. It can still cause a problem, and bleach can make it worse.
Yeah. So it has to physically be cut out.
It has to physically be cut out or abrasively removed. So, you can remove the drywall here, and now you've got studs back here.
Right.
You can sand and HEPA vacuum those studs so you don't have to remove them. And that's the proper way to do it. Versus a lot of remediation companies that come in and say, awesome, I've got this chemical, we're going to spray it, and we're done. And that does not work, ever. Or they fog it. Let's just fog it.
Yeah.
That doesn't work either.
You have to cut it out.
Yep.
Yeah, shoot. Have you had luck finding remediation companies that will do it the right way? Like, do you have these relationships built in?
I do. I've gone through kind of a lot of hills and valleys with this. I've been through a lot of remediation companies.
I'm sure.
And unfortunately, they don't want to do it to my standards, which I'm basing my standards off of actually Dr. Shoemaker's Surviving Mold IEP Consensus Statement of 2020, which was a panel of amazing indoor environmental professionals and medical doctors, including Dr. Shoemaker. And they came up with this standard that says, this is how you remediate for a sensitive population.
Yeah.
And that's what I follow. And it's very difficult to get the remediation companies here to do that because they just don't have the empathy and understanding that for some people, really for most of us, we have to go that extra mile.
Yeah.
So I do have a couple companies right now that have been excellent, and they get it. I do still like to go in after they're done and test to make sure, because I would say, after many hundreds of remediations, I've had 2 clear the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, 2, I'm happy for those 2.
Right.
Every other one, I have to go in and go, guys, I tested, it's still here. We got to get a little bit deeper just to have, some controls there.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to care like we do and like the homeowner does.
Yep.
So, yeah, thankfully I do have remediation companies, but I do always still recommend a third party to check to make sure the work was done well.
Are you tired of cookie cutter health that doesn't address your unique needs? It's time to discover functional medicine care designed to help you flourish. At FMI, you'll gain access to a range of benefits tailored to support optimal health and longevity. Experience the power of personalized care and take control of your health with an annual membership at FMI Center for Optimal Health. Visit www.fmioptimal.com/membership today and start thriving.
Well, I guess I want to follow with this. I think our audience would really, really like to hear your advice. Well, first of all, where are you seeing most of the mold in homes? Where's the biggest issues?
Probably crawl spaces.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't have guessed that. Okay.
Yep. Well, nobody. Don't go down there.
You have no reason ever to go down there.
And it's damp, and there's dirt, and water comes in, and you've got insulation here, and it traps moisture, and that's probably the big place. I mean, bathrooms are big too.
Yeah.
Anywhere where there's plumbing. But usually, a lot of times you can see those signs. Right. So you kind of get on that earlier. Sometimes. I do have a contractor friend who does bathroom remodels, and he says he's never opened up a bathroom without finding mold, which I have. I mean, maybe he hasn't, but I have. So
you've seen clean bathrooms.
I've seen clean bathrooms.
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, you think about we're taking a shower inside our house.
I know.
And the moisture and humidity and cracks in the grout and everything that can get behind there, it's a big spot too, a big area as well.
So what's some pretty reasonable advice that people like have a real working fan, have a window you can open, just a well-ventilated shower?
Yes, always run the bathroom fan. People don't know that actually that's what it's for. I did an Instagram post on this a couple weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
And had, I don't know, something like 200,000 views of people passing it on to people because they don't know. They call it a fart fan, right? They think the fan is there to remove odor and don't understand that the fan is actually there to remove humidity and moisture. Yeah. So yes, very good advice. Run the bathroom exhaust fan every time you bathe and or open a window if you don't have a fan.
Yeah.
Very important.
So let's get into other tips and tricks to avoid mold growth in your home.
Yes.
I'm sure you've got a lot of them.
Yeah. I really like to give people tips about easy things they can do right away.
Yeah.
So one of those would be to get a little leak detector. Mm-hmm. So Govee is one brand. There's other brands where they're inexpensive, just a little alarm that you put everywhere you've got plumbing. So you put it under your sinks, you put it behind your water heater, you put it behind your refrigerator, your washing machine. So if there is a water leak, it will alarm you very loudly. Hey, there's water here. So you can get on that immediately because mold can grow in 48 hours.
That's what I was going to say. You know, I have patients that say, oh, well, we had a leak, but they were on it within a couple days. And I'm like, couple days or 5 days? Like how quickly? And what did they do to be on it? So that's that's probably a whole nother topic of conversation, these disaster relief companies. Yeah. Do you have any that you trust? Like if someone does have a leak, do you have companies that you would recommend calling?
I have a couple, but it does depend on what are they doing. I see them sometimes they'll cut a hole in a wall and put a heater or a fan in there. That's horrible because if there's heat, which mold loves, they love warm temperatures, and then you're blowing it around, not awesome. I know. So it depends on how they approach it. Yeah. But yes, I do have a couple that I like.
Okay.
And so those alarms are amazing. It can save you from a massive issue.
Yeah.
And then another thing is like water heater, all of these same appliances, you can put pans under them. Okay. So if it leaks, it'll catch on the pan.
We have one under our washer. Our stackable washers, we have a pan.
Exactly.
Okay.
And sink mats, too. You can put rubber silicone sink mats under the sink, so if you get a drip, it's not going to impact the building materials. Mm-hmm. So those are good tips. The other thing I say is everyone should have a little hygrometer. You can get inexpensive hygrometer online and monitor your humidity. Mm-hmm. If suddenly the humidity inside your house is higher than outdoors, you've probably got a problem.
You have an issue.
Yep.
So are you not a fan of humidifiers?
Not in the HVAC system.
Okay.
Not at all. Yeah. I don't like air scrubbers, UV lights, ionic, blah, 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 all the things in the...
What's wrong with UV lights?
Well, UV or blue lights, one, they don't really do much because the air passes right by them, right?
They don't actually clean the air like they're supposed to.
Because the air would have to sit there for a long time.
Oh, that makes sense.
But two, this technology can actually create new chemistry. Okay. So we've got, what do we have? All kinds of particles in our house in chemistry and essential oils. And I mean, seemingly benign things, but when molecules interact, they create new chemistry that might not be a healthy molecule at this point. So the blue light, the UV lights, they can interact with other particles in the environment, create toxic chemicals like ozone or formaldehyde or other things that we don't want to be breathing in. So it's just not helpful.
Okay, so interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Other tips and tricks as far as just if someone's going to be building a home or remodeling a home, what else can people be looking for?
Well, I like everyone to get into their attic or crawl space every once in a while.
Yeah.
And I know that not everybody wants to do that. It's super not fun. Hire someone to go in your crawl space and attic and look, pull back insulation once in a while and keep an eye on things. If you're building new, one of the best things you can do is have large overhangs and gutters. And I say that because, especially here in the Treasure Valley, I see so many houses built without gutters.
Seriously?
All the time.
Why?
Looks, aesthetics.
Oh, the more modern or farmhouse type.
Yeah.
Maybe okay.
It's kind of streamlined, but even older houses, no gutters. So
the moisture's just running down the building materials.
yeah,
all the time.
and it can get into the foundation and it can wick up the walls. So gutters, very important, and downspouts. So people will have gutters, but they have downspouts, and then it terminates they have a little elbow right here. Well, where's that water going? It's just going to go back into the foundation. So we like to have nice, long extenders, about 5 feet away, so that you push the water away from the building. And then the large overhang, will just help to, same principle. It's just going to help keep water away from the exterior walls and the foundation.
So smart.
So really good things you could do on a new build, or even sometimes if you're remodeling, you can, put that into practice. But and then just, keeping an eye on your drainage. So a lot of people will have sloping towards the house, or a lot of foliage or trees or bushes against the house, which is never good, because then we're going to trap moisture. Roots can grow and get into the foundation, create cracks and penetrations. So we want, basically we want our house on a little hill.
Yeah.
And everything.
Sloping away.
Yep, sloping away. And our foliage, trees, bushes, at least 6 feet away from the building materials.
I can't wait to tell my husband we need to build a new house. Oh, no, it's such good advice. Yeah, just so many different things to think about. EMFs. Because I don't anymore feel like you can have a conversation about mold. Let's be honest. I don't feel like you can talk about toxins anymore without talking about including EMFs in that topic of conversation as well. Boise was chosen as a smart city years ago. I think it's almost been almost a decade now since they started to try and identify Boise as a smart city.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been a while. I was part of an original committee where they were trying to fight it. And so these 5G towers just keep popping up all over our city. So why do we care about EMF as it interacts with mold?
Yeah.
Or do we care?
Yeah, well, again, it's another toxin for our bodies to try to handle. But, what's interesting to me in my line of work, since I deal with both EMF and mold, and I'm a nutritionist, my most sensitive clients from an EMF perspective have had a major mold event. And that is sometimes how they become sensitive to EMF. It's the mold event that triggered them. Why that is, I think we still have a lot of research to really identify all the ways. But one, it's the EMF or the mold exposures creating this very suppressed immune system, or maybe overactive immune system rather, and the nervous system. It's really impacting the nervous system, and so then when we're exposed to this human-made electromagnetic fields that our body can't deal with, it can't respond. And some people think that in the presence of EMF, mold will fight harder because it's threatened, and so it releases more mycotoxins.
Does it not? That's what I was led to believe. That it actually grows.
I don't know. There's a few small studies that show that.
Okay.
I'd like to see more robust research on that. It makes a lot of sense to me.
It does make sense, yeah.
But
you're saying it's more that it just how it impacts the human body.
Both, I think. Okay. How it impacts the human body, and maybe the mold grows more aggressively in your house because you've got Wi-Fi and smart everything.
Right.
And if you're colonized,
right,
and you're doing this on your phone, or you've got wireless earbuds, or you're sitting next to your router, what's happening in your body?
Yeah.
So
And just alone that your body can't detox and heal when it's being hit by
right.
all those different toxins.
Right. I mean,
'cause
not
it's
only
such a stressor for your system.
not only is all of it, the mold is impacting your nervous system.
Yeah.
So is the EMF, and they're playing off each other. So it's like,
Yeah.
three things happening at once.
I want to revisit this because I've had so many clients that test their homes, come back clear, even though I know there's a mold burden. We've tested their bodies because thankfully nowadays we have really good mycotoxin tests, mostly urinary mycotoxin tests, right? And I'm scratching my head, or we start to detox them because I'm like, great, your home's clear, you're not currently being exposed, you're fine. And they're not getting better. Yeah. And shame on me, but like one of the patients, it was in her workplace. Right?
Yeah.
She worked in a school, which we know is rampant for mold. And it took me a couple months before I'm like, oh my goodness, you're a school counselor. I bet it's in your building. Sure enough, got on summer break, started a detox her. We got her in a newer school. She healed.
Wow.
I had another patient.
Awesome.
He actually remodeled his home and found a bunch of mold. We were trying to get him better, actually crazy high lipids. We started detoxing, wasn't getting better. It was all over his truck. It was in his car.
Yep.
So I think people need to realize too, it's not just your home. Where else are you going? Where else are you visiting? Church that you might go visit a couple times a week and spend a lot of time. And you volunteer at a hospital system, or you volunteer at a school, or you're a teacher. Oh my goodness, the schools make me so nervous.
I know it. Schools really, that's a hard one.
And then guess what's on top of a lot of schools? 5G tower. Those schools are just rampant with Wi-Fi too.
Yeah. And every kid in school has a phone and wireless earbuds and Wi-Fi in every room. Yeah. No, I'm really glad you mentioned that because it is a very important thing for people to consider. Just like you said, their house is totally fine.
Yeah.
But their workplace or their vehicle. Yeah, I see that very often.
So will you go check places of work if someone asks you, or look at the vehicles, or?
Yep, we can test vehicles for sure. Workplaces, absolutely. It can be tricky because not all employers are going to allow you to do that.
Yeah.
But I hopefully will work with anybody to however we can. I mean, there's multiple ways we can test.
Right.
We can always do an EMRS if that's what we have to do, which somebody can collect on their own.
Because that's the dust collection. The EMRS.
A PCR DNA test, which has its limitations as well.
Right.
You cannot put all. You can't guarantee everything from one EMRS, but it's a piece of information. Another thing I will say is people bring stuff into their house. Their house might be fine, but that used couch they bought, or something I've seen recently, I used to recommend people would get like sisal or jute or these grass area rugs.
Yeah.
Because they're natural.
Right. Mold fibers. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, sometimes they're woven when they're wet.
Yeah.
They come from other countries. I have 2 clients that reacted severely because they had stachybotrys in those area rugs.
Oh,
so it might not be the house. It might be something you're bringing.
So why do we care about stachybotrys?
Yes. So stachybotrys, quote unquote, the black mold, which it doesn't even have to be black, but it is that and chaetomium are the 2.
What's the second one?
Chaetomium.
How do you spell that?
Chaetomium. Chaetomium. Something like that.
Okay.
Starts with a CH.
Okay.
They have the most toxic mycotoxins. So when they produce mycotoxins, they are, I mean, there's others that impact people very aggressively as well, but those are the 2 that's like, it can really bring you down.
Yeah.
So they're the most toxic. And so if we find those, we, even in small, I mean, I had some in my sink. It was not much. It was about that much. But I was getting migraines for like 2 years. I've never had migraines before. And since we cut it out, I haven't had one since.
Yeah, good.
So, even a little small area of those 2 types can be pretty toxic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's probably good for our listeners to hear, everyone's probably on the edge of the seats being like, what symptoms should I be looking for? Why should I hire someone like you to test my home for mold? Right? Yeah. And I kind of say it runs a large gamut of symptoms.
Does.
It really doesn't, mold doesn't have to have one specific symptoms. So I'm curious what you see in these homes that you're testing. What are these families complaining of? And it doesn't have to be, we should also visit about how it doesn't have to be well, my kids aren't sick. My husband's not sick. Why do you think I have a mycotoxin illness?
I hear that all
the time.
Yeah. Well, like you said, the symptoms can be anything.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no system of the body that mold doesn't impact.
Great. I'm
It
so
could be
glad
your
you mentioned
skin,
that, yeah.
your liver, your
health.
energy, your hormones, your fertility. I mean, any system of the body. So brain, it could be cognitive. It's so hard. You know, I would say if you're, I mean, it could be one thing or it could be all of them. So, you know, I don't know that there is one thing that I would say, oh, that's mold.
Yeah.
Even anger, aggression.
Yeah.
I mean,
Depression, mood imbalances, brain fog, fatigue, or even just a new diagnosis of an autoimmune issue. I think if we're not asking, is there an exposure to mold or mold illness?
Right. Yeah. It's so all over the board that there isn't one, you know, presentation for mold. So, and to your second question, it's so common that a couple people in the house are sick or one person and nobody else.
Yeah.
And that's where I see, unfortunately, relationships struggle.
Yeah.
You know, because why are we going to spend all this money and go through all this stuff and do all this thing when we're all fine? It's something else. But it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
I see this constantly. So one person, maybe they have the HLA gene.
Right.
That makes them, you know, less able to detoxify mold. Maybe they've had a previous trauma. Maybe they are, you know, have been exposed in another location, and so they're more sensitive to the mold. I mean, there's so many reasons.
Bucket's a little more full.
Yeah. So there's so many reasons why one person might react, or a couple people in the house, and everybody else does not. However, I will say that most of the time when I see this, the person who is fine actually does have a lot of health problems, or some, but they're not equating it with the mold. Or they think it's normal.
Yeah.
Well, I always get seasonal allergies.
Yeah.
Or I've always had this sinus
migraines,
issue.
Yeah.
Or I've always had depression or whatever.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always correlate to one person's fine and, you know, the other one's not. Often there's a lot
subjective.
of problems. Yeah.
I think it's also important. We talked about how ways that you can make sure you prevent mold growth in your home, which is very important. EMFs. That's something I've started talking about a lot more. Let's start to be more aware of these invisible frequencies and signals that we see in our home. And I think there's so many ways that you can start with tonight when you get home to start making your home more EMF safe. So as the expert, what do you
Yeah,
recommend?
absolutely. And I'm glad you asked that too. I love talking about this because this is something you can do immediately.
Yeah.
So when you go to bed tonight, unplug your Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I mean, so easy. Don't sleep next to your phone. Or if you have to have it as an alarm, great. Turn off Wi-Fi, turn off Bluetooth, turn off your cellular data.
Yeah, you can still use it. Alarm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is a whole spectrum, and you can get really aggressive, or you can just do a few things. I would say for anybody listening, the number one thing you could do in your house is to hardwire your internet.
Yeah.
So you don't have to unplug it at night. You just don't have Wi-Fi.
You don't have the signals.
You have a wired connection.
Yeah.
It's not that complicated to do. I mean, anybody can reach out to me and I can explain how to do it because you can do it yourself. You don't have to run wires everywhere. And
Really? You can do
hire
it yourself?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yep.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea.
So super easy.
That's
to show you how to
amazing.
do it. I've got a $20 course on how to do it yourself, and
Oh my
or
gosh,
I've got
on your
an
website?
article.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll-
actually, it's not on my website, but I made it for another company. But I can point anyone to the course, or
Right.
I've got an article on it.
Great.
It's very simple, and in a house when I'm measuring the radio frequency, if we unplug the Wi-Fi or hardwire it, it reduces your overall exposure by 90%, like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So everyone says it's everywhere. Why should I even bother? Every reduction is worth achieving.
Yeah.
And if you can reduce your exposure by 90%,
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
What are some of the other wireless devices that you see put out the most of these frequencies?
These days, everything.
Really?
I mean, I've seen tampons that.
What?
Yes.
What?
Because how are you supposed to know when you're supposed to change your tampon unless your phone tells you?
They have tampons that connect to your phone.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
And diapers and posture devices that you wear on your back.
Yeah, I've seen those.
You know, so
Diapers.
I know. So it's these wearables are what really bother me because it's on your body constantly.
Yeah.
But other things in your house that you might not be aware of, your water softener, your dishwasher, your fridge, mirrors sometimes, stuffed animals I found. I mean, it's wild. Yeah. So it's good to have a meter so that you can find this stuff in your house. And just when you're buying a new appliance, just, ask for the dumb one. You don't need a smart one, right? Thermostats, obviously sound bars, TVs, all stuff that you can just keep. Okay, you want to use your amazing TV? Awesome. Unplug it when you're not using it because it's going to emit no matter what, even if it's turned off. So any of this stuff, keep on a power switch. Just, turn it off when you're not using it. And then if you want to use it once in a while, fine.
Okay, that's really good advice. Yeah. I love that. I know this smart world, smart everything, the smart cars. You did a really good post on vehicles and emitting EMFs to some of the newer vehicles, right? Didn't you? You compared like an old Subaru to like a newer one or something?
I've tested a lot of cars.
I bet.
So I've got many videos on just cars in general, but yes, the electric ones, obviously I did a Tesla.
Tesla, okay.
And ironically, it didn't test that bad compared to another car, yet what's happening there is there's many sensors that are out of the range of our meters. So we can't pick up everything with our radio frequency meters. And I rode in that car for about 20 minutes and I did not feel well. I kind of felt like I was going to throw up after I got out of it. But I would not recommend them an electric vehicle in general. There are some that are okay, you just have to test. And that pretty much goes with everything. What fridge, what car, what TV, you just have to test.
Can you tell us a favorite meter that you would recommend your clients to buy?
So for radio frequency, I like the Safe and Sound Pro.
Okay.
It is from Safe Living Technologies. It's a great meter to test all the wireless stuff in your house. But then we've got magnetic fields, electric fields, dirty electricity. I mean, it gets pretty complex. And for those, there are meters that are like a 3-in-1 where you can do radio frequency, electric fields, magnetic fields. For under $200, like the Coronet meter, it's pretty good. It's not nearly going to be as sensitive as our equipment, but it's a good place to start.
Yeah, good. Is that Core with a C or a K?
C.
Core with a K. Okay, Coronet. That's great. Oh, you are such a wealth of information. I'm sure people would just die to take you to coffee and spend an hour of your time and just hear all of your...
Some low mold coffee.
Yes, there you go. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
It's been so valuable, and I know there's going to be so many great takeaways and things that people can implement at home right away with regards to both mold and EMS. So thank you, Cathy. Great. And we'll list all your information. People can find you, I know, on your website is probably the best place to locate you. So we'll list Cathy's website for in-home mold testing and EMF testing and all things healthy building, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Cathy. Amber. We appreciate it. Thank you for listening to the Functional Medicine Foundation's podcast. For more information on topics covered today, specialties available at the FMI Center for Optimal Health, and the highest quality of supplements and more, go to funmedfoundations.com.